Welcome to night number 5 of the World Series of Asphalt Stock Car Racing and the inaugural ASA Stars National Tour race sanction here this week with the Southern Super Series. I'm Jim Trado along with Adam Mack. And Adam, you've been here all week long. The super late models are part of the nightly activities here, but it's down to this. 45 cars just tried to qualify in for tonight's Clyde Hart Memorial 200.
Qualifying was highly important, as you can imagine. Top 22 to lock into the race. That was taken care of. The rest going to the last chance, except for provisionals. And they've actually added a couple of extra starters, originally scheduled to be 28 starters in tonight's event. That has been raised to 32.
We bring our coverage to a fold here as we just see the final modified qualifying. The tour type modifieds have qualified. If you've been following along, yes, Ron Silk is still really good. Qualified quickest over a full field of tour type modifieds. You'll see here this evening. Our coverage here for the ASA Stars National Tour begins in moments with the 20-lap last chance qualifier. This race will only have 6 cars moving on to the big show. A lot of disappointed drivers and teams will leave tonight or perhaps sit on top of the hauler and watch and wonder as this huge field has come to 4. 52 cars entered. A couple have had issues, a couple of motor issues, a couple of withdrawals throughout the weekend. But we mentioned 45 of the 46 cars that took time. The only one that missed out on a time lap was Gabe Summers, the newly crowned ASA Midwest Tour champion. An issue there. The car was not able to fire for qualifying. We'll have to see if he can make it through the LCQ because, again, we go down to those. You mentioned the points provisionals, Adam. There's only 2 per series for ASA Stars National and the Southern Super Series as they co-sanction tonight's kickoff of the 2024 season.
Billy Van Meter, Jake Francis, Stars National Tour provisionals from a season ago in those standings. Matt Craig and Nee in the 8.
So Jonathan Nee got in on Southern Super Series points because his team owner, Jamie Yelton, and that team that had Jackson Boone driving it, had the second highest owner's points in the Southern Super Series from a year ago to get out on that final provisional for the Southern Super Series. We also know that there are a lot of interest. There's a lot of interest here this evening on Chase Elliott. Yes, he's qualified in. He will race his super late model Ricky Turner here this evening. We also know that last year's ASA Stars National Tour champion and NASCAR playoffs driver in the Craftsman Truck Series, Ty Majeski, yes, he qualified in. But qualifying, I did a couple of notes here. Qualifying just happened about an hour ago. It was less than 1/10 of a second, first to 8th. Actually a tie for 3rd in qualifying speeds. First to 22nd in time, 0.267 seconds, a quarter of a second. Try to snap your fingers twice. That's more than a quarter of a second. We also know that the cutoff was at the 22nd fastest. From 22nd to 32nd in time, 0.2 of a second between those two, and only 1.5 seconds first to 45th on the stopwatch.
The super late models have been on track for 2 races so far this week as part of the World Series of Asphalt Stock Car Racing. Those fields have been elevated. It's been outstanding fields of 30-plus cars the first 2 nights. A lot of that can be attested to the fact that they're running the big race, the Clyde Hart Memorial, on Tuesday night. Some drivers using it as getting their cars tuned in, getting ready to go for this big $15,000 to win race coming up at 8 o'clock Eastern Time later this evening. The super late model fields, outstanding. The talent in those fields, very good. And tonight, one of the best super late model fields that you will see in 2024.
We have an update. The qualified cars are now placed into the last chance qualifier. So the first car not in on time or provisional, we'll start on the pole, is Joel Lawrence, one of the 6 Canadian drivers here. We just got an update from timing and scoring. 2 guys have scratched. Daniel Webster from Brooksville, Florida, and Cody Crucker from Naples, Florida. So now we're down to 12 official drivers from Florida trying to make the show tonight.
See the cars lined up on pit road. That starting lineup for the super late models. The ASA Stars National Tour and the Southern Super Series featuring some very good talent, including champions in multiple walks of racing. One of those, a 2-time champion of the World Series himself, Derek Griffiths, starting back there on the inside of row 3. Let's take a look at the starting lineup for this 20-lap event, Jim.
Joe Lawrence out of Canada to make his ASA Stars national debut. He plans on running the entire schedule in that number 78. To his outside, the driver's going to race full-time in the ARCA Menard Series this year. He's run some Truck Series, some Xfinity Series. but also has made an appearance the last couple of years, but this time the first time on Donnie Wilson Racing number 20. He'll start outside row number 1. We go to Trayton Lapsevich. Man, he's an impressive Canadian as well. His brother Caden won at age 16 in the NASCAR Canada Series. Trayton is now the 2023 champ at age 19. He'll start inside row number 2. Days outside, Hunter Wright, the star of the Nashville Pro Late Models, and has had a pretty good speed weeks thus far in the World Series here in a Pro Late at New Smyrna Speedway. Hunter will start his Super Late outside of row 2.
The two-time series champion, two-time past champion, Derek Griffith, starting in position 5. That's a surprise he didn't lock into the top 22. Shows the strength of the field we have here this week. Nicholas Noggle, he finished 4th on opening night this past Friday in World Series competition. He starts in the 6th position here tonight. Kyle Steckley from Canada starting inside of row number 4 in the 30 car.
He had damage in qualifying. That car will go to the tail. He slapped the right side coming to the checkers.
He did, and he still was able to turn a relatively decent lap despite hitting the wall. And Tommy Catalano in the 54T, a modified competitor racing in supers as well outside of row number 4 in car 54.
We just got that update, so that's why I stopped you mid-flow there. Johnny Sauter, yes, the NASCAR Truck Series champion. We'll start Richie Waters, number 5, back in row 5. Daniel Webster is a scratch as well, we're just being informed. John Bolin and Mitch Haver out of Wisconsin trying to make his ASA Stars national debut. For both of those drivers, they'll come from row 5 or row 6, depending how things shake up with the cars moving to the back or scratching.
20 laps the distance for the Clyde Hart Memorial Last Chance qualifier race. Scheduled to be 9 starting rows, but again, a couple of scratches from this event. Everything being buttoned up around the racetrack. The back gate on the back straightaway. The cars have fired on pit road in this super late model field getting ready to roll. As you see our final 3 rows in the starting lineup.
Cody Crucker is also a scratch. That's a late notice from race control. Caden Quapple, the Cars Pro late model stock champion from a year ago. He's had some motor issues. He'll start that Archie St. Hilaire number 32 back in row 7. Again, they're only taking 6 total out of this. Dave Farrington out of Maine. Steve Weaver, a late addition. A veteran of the World Series of Asphalt Stock Car Racing, trying to make his debut in the ASA Stars National Tour. Danny Knoll Jr., hard impact in practice yesterday. A lot of damage. They were trying to get that car ready for the last chance qualifier. We'll see if he can roll, as he did not make a time, nor did Gabe Summers in the 15 out of Wisconsin, the defending ASA Midwest Tour champ. Did not put in a lap, so he'll have to start tail on the field when it comes to the last chance qualifier. 20 laps to make it the big show.
It's going to be fun, Jim. The last chance race featuring a lot of top talent. The top 22 that have locked in, and the 4 additional locking in through provisionals already set. They have the sigh of relief. Now they can just get ready for that 200-lap feature later tonight.
And this is a stacked field, front to back. It rivals any lineup of any race. We're going back to North Wilkesboro and the stock car revival from last year. We're talking about 2 years ago. We're talking about last year. North Wilkesboro had 50 super late models of the ASA Stars National Tour. This has every bit of a feel of another granddaddy in Florida. As far as the stout field, we talked about the time difference, 1.5 seconds front to back in the entire 45 car field in qualifying. This is like a snowball derby feel in every way. Talked to Bubba Pollard earlier today. Yes, he's qualified in. He qualified really well, but Pollard has raced in 16 snowball derbies. He's raced here a bunch and won the World Series in a super. He said this is a different feel altogether this week with the attention and the speed and the quality of the field we have here. Several drivers have had to do something to get here, and some of them have had success here. Some of them have had success north of the border. At 19 years of age, we welcome in the NASCAR Canada champion and the number 32, Trayton Lapsevich. Grimsby, Ontario, Canada. His achievements are beyond the championship of a year ago. He's been racing in the Pinty Series. He's 19 now. He started when he was 15. And his brother Caden, now crew chief for Venue Motorsports, won the NASCAR Canada Championship in whatever year it was. He was age 16 at the time. The Lapsevich family is here in force. Great to see Trayton Lapsevich representing his family and the NASCAR Canada Series in the ASA Stars National Tour kickoff here in Florida.
Stellar field of super late models, over 50 as we talked about, entered for this event. They made it a Southern Super Series race a year ago during the World Series, and that really upped the intensity. Upped even more for this year, adding the ASA Stars National Tour season opener. There's a lot of guys here that are planning to run the full season in 2024.
I watched last year's Clyde Hart Memorial 100 in the stands. William Byron really had a good, strong car late. Bubba Pollard had a really strong car. Had to make a pit stop. Got mired back and finished 11th. There was a lot of storylines, but this is twice the distance. Only 4 new tires in the pits. It's going to be a lot on the line for the drivers that made this show already. These cars on the field now. This is the last chance qualifier. 6 of them will race their way in to the Clyde Hart Memorial 200 this evening.
Chris Wright in the 20 will be the 2 to bring him to green, and it's going to be intense, I think, watching a couple of guys a little further back in the field. Johnny Sauter in the 5. We'll keep our eyes on him. We know he's a good racer. How will his car be for 20 laps? Missed it just a little bit in qualifying.
Yeah, Johnny had a mechanical issue last year in the Clyde Hart Memorial as well. So as we talked about his NASCAR career, he'll be in this coming Friday night's NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race in a one-off with East Motorsports. But the reality is he's been short track racing a bunch with his car, Richie Waters' car. He also got a chance to race a few other cars this past year and a half or so in Super Late Models, as he is now focused on having fun, not racing full-time in NASCAR anymore. But it's great to see Johnny Sauter, a vicious competitor when it comes to short track racing. From the famous Wisconsin Sauter family. He'll start inside row number 4 here. For the 6 cars to advance, Johnny's got to pass a couple early, and he's got Derek Griffith just ahead of him, Lapsevich ahead of him, and the rookie for the ASA Stars NASCAR Tour, Joe Lawrence, in his first time here at New Smyrna Speedway, from the inside of row number 1 ahead of him.
We were looking forward to watching Gabe Summers race through the field in this last chance. His car not on the raceway, so it looks like Gabe Summers may be a scratch from this event. Unfortunately, a tough week for the number 15.
Great observation. Adam Mackey, Jim Trito, Jacqueline Drake joining us as well here on the coverage of the inaugural run of New Smyrna Speedway for the ASA Stars National Tour. The second year for the Super Late Model Series. Tonight pays out $15,000 to the winner, $1,500 to start, and we expanded the field thanks to the Hart family. Up to 32 starters here, taking 2 additional cars than originally planned here out of this last chance qualifier to make it 6 cars to race their way in. The pace truck is down the backstretch and gaining speed with the lights off. Into turn number 3. This field ready to roll for 20 laps to determine the cars that will take up the remaining positions for tonight's 200 lapper. Joe Lawrence on the inside. To his outside, Chris Wright, Canada and Pennsylvania represented, and here we go.
78 of Lawrence spinning the tires a little bit from the pole position on the opening start. That's going to shuffle the 78 back to 3rd, maybe even further back. Running the outside lane, making a move is Nicholas Noggle in the 08.
That really has penalized Derek Griffith and Johnny Sauter, stuck on the inside line, if you will. The pole sitters back to 4th on just the first lap. Lapsevich in the 32 now trying to get his outside. The top 3 trying to break away. They're doing a nice job of that, trying to get in a comfortable position, knowing they're in the show if they stay where they are. No pressure there for 3rd just now. Lapsevich now clears Lawrence for 4th.
Watching former World Series champion Derek Griffith in the 12 try to move up as well. Chris Wright leading the way over the first 2 laps and pulling away at the front of the field, building up a healthy advantage over Hunter Wright.
Tommy Catalano in the number 54, that white and black number 54, has moved his way nicely from outside row number 4 on the initial start. He's now trying to race his way into contention. 1 spot out is the 54 of Catalano in a car that Ty Majeski drove in the ASA Midwest Tour. Recent purchase for that modified standout, as he's racing full-time this year on the NASCAR Within Modified Tour in the famous Catalano family. Trying to make it in the show here in the Super Late.
Watching the black and red 12 of Derek Griffith, holding on to the 5th spot in right now. Joe Lawrence, pole sitter in this race, fell all the way back to 6th, though he's on the bubble right now. And Tommy Catalano about ready to pounce for that number 6 position.
Catalano's 7th. The number 30 of Kyle Steckley. We talked about his damage. Had to start at the tail of this last chance qualifier. He's made his way forward. 2 spots out. Johnny Sauter just struggling here. The Lemon Racing out of Wisconsin, number 5. Back behind the field, looking from the outside in right now for Sauter.
First 5 laps clean and green, and it's been all good for Chris Wright in the 20 at the front of the field. The Pennsylvania driver pulling away. Would love to see this race stay green, but from 2nd on back, Jim, no one really able to stretch an advantage or by themselves. There's a battle heating up just outside of the transfer positions as Steckley makes a move.
Yeah, Steckley had a fast car. We talked about him slapping the wall in qualifying. That really slowed his efforts. They had to pull the car out and get it repaired. So he was penalized by having to start at the back of this last chance qualifier. His time was not good enough either way to make the top 22. So good to see that quick repair by the Rhett Jones Racing team for that young Canadian, full set on a full season here in the ASA Stars National Tour in 2024.
Had a decent lap despite hitting the wall in his 2nd lap of qualifying, and in fact the last time by He was as quick as the leader, if not a little bit quicker. So he's making some headway through the field from starting at the back, and he's just one spot out of a transfer position.
That's the son of four-time NASCAR Canada Series champion Scott Steckley, and I'm telling you, that car and that team have a lot of experience. Last year they fielded a super late model, did Rhett Jones Racing for Noah Gragson. Soon to make his debut in the Stewart-Haas Racing NASCAR Cup Series team at the Daytona 500. Noah was here today hanging out with the team. He said, these are my guys. I got to see what they're up to. As he walked through the back gate, we encountered a brief conversation, and great to see him supporting this Rhett Jones Racing team and young Kyle Steckley getting the shot. A big move for this young driver out of Canada.
And he's made the move into the top 6. So right now into a transfer spot is the number 30 of Steckley. Lawrence has fallen out of a transfer position. Also outside looking in, Tommy Catalano, Johnny Sauter, the 7 of Haver, the 32 car of Quapple, and the 23 of Farrington. Those drivers needing some help to get up into the top 6. The top 3 now looking pretty safe, Jim. They've pulled away all by himself out front. Chris Wright, 2nd and 3rd. You would think Hunter Wright, Nicholas Noggle not going to race very hard with one another. They're in right now and looking pretty safe as they pull away from 4th on back.
Yeah, I think Catalano is in a good position. I think Sauter's car has come to life. He needs a long run here. I think Johnny Sauter will need a caution to get back in the throws, but the car's up to speed. But man, the pace of this race, I'm telling you, these guys are not laying down. They're putting some serious time in. Johnny Sauter's got to do a lot with a little bit of time to make up the difference to get in the show. He's 2 spots out right now. Is Sauter in the orange 5. I'd like to also update you, Caden Quapple. That car had a motor issue yesterday. It dropped a valve. They ended up pulling the motor and got just 7 laps of practice and a borrowed motor from Albert Francis. Their next laps on the track were qualifying this afternoon. They're struggling and likely won't make the show with that young 17-year-old.
Well, Johnny Sauter, if he has anything for the top 6, he needs to go quickly. Sauter running in 9th position right now, and he needs to start picking up positions quickly. Here's a move inside for the top 6.
18-year-old Kyle Steckley making a move on 2-time World Series of Asphalt stock car champion out of New Hampshire, Derek Griffith. It's one more spot in the lineup. Don't want to just get 6th. You want to get 5th or 4th. You want to be that last car to be messed with, and Griffith's now on the bubble in the 12.
Steckley helping himself with his starting position for tonight's race, showing that he has a very good race car as he's moved into the top 5. We're down to the final 3 laps this next time by the line when Chris Wright approaches lap 17's completion. Hunter Wright looking good in 2nd. No relation between those 2 drivers.
What they've done, though, they've had to work through time on the racetrack yesterday. They got just 2 sets of practice tires yesterday. It was a hot session 1, very warm session 2. Got down into the 70s last evening for practice 3. And then they had to sit till 4:30 today to qualify. And that's not a lot of time when you're trying to throw things out to qualify. These teams missed it by a little bit. Now we're racing under much cooler conditions than just any point in the weekend thus far for these teams.
Clean race for this last chance down to the final lap for the leader. Chris Wright out front. Transfer cars, Chris Wright, Hunter Wright, Nicholas Noggle, Trayton Lapsovich, Kyle Steckley, and Derek Griffith as the white flag waves.
Next time by, we'll see Dan Spence display the checkered flag for Chris Wright out of Wexford, Pennsylvania. Set for a full season in the ARCA Menard Series. He's racing this Saturday at the big track, Daytona. He's got a win here in the LCQ. He's moving on to the Clyde Hart Memorial 200.
And it will remain unchanged. The last lap is Hunter Wright brings home 2nd, Nicholas Noggle 3rd, Trayton Lapsovich, Kyle Steckley, and Derek Griffith, the 6 transfer cars. Joe Lawrence, the pole sitter, just 1 spot out. Johnny Sauter finished 2 spots out of a transfer tonight. Tommy Catalano was 9th. Mitch Haver, Caden Quapple, Dave Farrington, the rest of the top 12.
Now we can take a little bit of a breath. Not long, though, because these teams will have to go through the tech inspection, get their tires arranged, and accordingly, they had to qualify on stickers. They were able to use a different set from practice for this LCQ, so they're not penalized the 20 laps. They don't have 20-lap older tires to start the 200-lap run, so that's a great change for what these teams can do. And, man, what a stacked field, having the names you just listed off not in the show. And Chris Wright going right to the check shed. They've got a short turnaround here before we present for the 200-lapper.
And their sigh of relief will happen when they clear tech. There haven't been many disqualifications during this week of the World Series. A couple have taken place, and it was either a left side percentage or just a little bit light across the scales. And Freddie Query let him know in the driver's meeting today, said, teams, don't cut it real close. don't make it that close. We don't want to have to disqualify you. He said, don't take that chance.
And really, the officials have done a great job. They brought in additional staffing to get the cars through tech. We have, again, World Series of Asphalt Stock Car Racing. There's 3-4 divisions per night. So yesterday, there was a full evening program after they got their practice sessions that we talked about. The modifieds get to race tonight after the 200-lapper. So there's a lot of racing, a lot of activity in the infield, and not a lot of time to get it done right. These are the best teams of the best in the super late model world, racing here at New Smyrna Speedway. We're going to step away. The last chance qualifier has concluded. We now know who's going to make up the 32-car starting field in tonight's Clyde Hart Memorial 200. Stick around.